Backend Day 1. The backend of any application is which you cannot see but you can feel its effect. Take for example of a restaurant. In a restaurant, the menu card and the dining area represents the front end and the kitchen area is represented the back end. When you visit a restaurant, you cannot directly talk to the kitchen. You first talk to the waiter who gives your order, takes your order and talks to the kitchen to prepare the food. Like that we have a backend in our application that takes a request from a user, processes the request and talks to the database and finally sends a response back to the user. The backend mainly focuses on key things like server-side logic, authentication, databases and APIs to help and support the front end. The backend talks to the front end using a client-server architecture. Let us understand why we need a client-server architecture. The client-server architecture provides and also help us in scalability, maintainability, security, and faster performance. A client-server architecture is established between a user and a remote computer through internet. There is a request and response cycle is continuously running between the client and the server. To understand this architecture better, let's take the example of Instagram. When you open the Instagram app, a request is sent to the server to load the feed data. Then the server fetches the feed data from the database and sends a response to the user. And finally, the feed data is showed on the screen of the phone. This client-server communication is done through a language called HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Another version of HTTP is HTTPS, where S stands for secured. The communication between the user and the server is secured through encryption methods like SSL and TSL. So it is called secured. Let's understand the HTTPS and HTTP communication using an example. The courier service system. In a courier service, a parcel is sent from a source to a destination. Here a parcel stands or it is equivalent to a request and the source where it is to be sent is the server. It is done through a courier, that is internet. The HTTP request contains 4 key elements: the header, URL, method and the body. The header are the requests that are to be given to the server, like get, put, delete, post. A HTTP response has 3 elements, that is the status code, methods and body. The status code represents 3-digit code like 200, 404 for a successful result and a not found result respectively. Finally, let us understand the difference between front-end, back-end and full stack with an example of Amazon. In an Amazon app, there is a home screen and product screen shown on the phone. They are the front end. And when you buy a product and payment is done, you cannot see on the phone, that is done behind the scenes, that is the back end. And a full stack is something that contains both front end and back end.